Hey, thanks so much for joining. My name is Ashley, and I'm a blogger and part time reseller on the Poshmark app. You can find my closet and me on Instagram at AshleyDTL. I'm really excited because we're going to do something a little bit different today, and we're going to interview one of my girl crushes when it comes to reselling. Real talk. I've got Becky Park here, and before I get her to introduce herself, I want to tell a story about how I discovered Becky Park. I started watching Becky's YouTube videos when I started my reselling journey, and there was so much about her story and her approach that resonated with me. But the defining moment of why my love for Becky was really solidified was she actually inspired me to start my YouTube channel. And on one of my very first videos, I got a really nasty comment. And Becky's comment on my YouTube video was actually the very next comment that happened. So this nasty troll and Becky were side by side, and it warmed my heart.
Oh,
Becky Park, thanks so much for being here.
thank you for having me. That warms my heart. I don't know why people troll. Why? Why are people mean? I don't get it. But
I
ugh,
don't know. The people of YouTube figuring it out.
yeah.
Um, we're not going to talk about them though. We're going to talk about reselling. Tell me, how did you get started with reselling and what inspired you to do that?
So I was one of those people that would shop and my closet would be full of stuff, and then I'd kind of shift gears as far as what I was wearing. And I would take stuff to Plato's Closet. But as I got older, that became less and less lucrative. And they'd be like, we don't really accept J. Crew and Banana Republic. And I'm like, but why? This was really expensive. What am I supposed to do with this stuff? And a lot of it was new with tags and things like that. Or they try to give me 45 cents for something. And I was like, oh, I'm taking my business elsewhere. So I literally just Googled where can I sell clothes for money or something like that. And I got a hit for Poshmark. And so I tried it out. I, posted a few things. And one thing about me is when I get into something, I get into it hard. And so as soon as I found out about Poshmark, I started doing all this research, and I found people who were blogging about it. And then I found people who were making YouTube videos about it. And then I found out people were making a living selling on Poshmark. And I was like, what is going on? And so once I made my first sale, which I think was a pair of my husband's Toms, I was hooked. I was like, this is so cool. And then I slowly got into the world of thrifting to resell, because originally I was just selling stuff from our house. And that was so exhilarating in and of itself, just that treasure hunt of going out and finding what other people deemed as garbage and bringing it home and giving it new life. So that's how I started. And that was in December of 2017 or something like that. And then I slowly, you know, also expanded into eBay and Mercari and stuff like that. And I started an Instagram because I wanted to dive even deeper still into, everything reseller related. So yeah, that's kind of how I started. I feel like a lot of people just kind of Googled something, Poshmark popped up, and yeah.
I love that. And I think that's part of the reason why I resonate so deeply with you as well. I'm also that person who's like, I'm going to learn about something and I'm going to go so deep. And, with Poshmark, there's so many resources available. And, I'm in Canada, and Poshmark only launched in Canada last year.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing to learn from everyone else's experiences over the last, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. There's so much content out there.
Yes, there really is.
So you sell on Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari.
I do. I recently started Kidizen last week or something, and I made two sales over there. I have a Tradesy account, but I don't know why. I don't do anything with it. And I think that's it. Every once in a while, I'll post something on Instagram, or I don't do Instagram sales, but every once in a while, I'll just be like, I have this if you want it before I list it. But yeah, I mean, I think Poshmark is usually my main bay. That's the one that brings in the most income per week. But then eBay's been stepping it up. I'm getting a little bit more serious about Mercari. I always kind of write it off. It's like my stepchild. I'm just meh, but I'm trying to take it more seriously. And it has been, coming through this week. Yeah, but mainly Poshmark.
Cool. And you do this part-time. How
Yes.
much time do you spend on your business each week?
I had a week when I was I'm going to record how much time it takes. And I'm going to track it on my phone and stuff. And it didn't work. But I would say like, well, right now, because of quarantine and, shelter at home and stuff, I think I'm spending a lot more time on it because I have more time to spend. But when I'm not, just stuck at home, I'm a full-time high school choir teacher. And it's a pretty demanding job because there's a lot of stuff like before school, after school, there's a lot of like, performances. But when I was like, especially during busy seasons of school, I probably would say like 10 to 15 hours. Um, and now I'm probably doing like 15 to 20. This is all guesstimating. If I were to actually track it, I bet I'd be shocked and I'd be like, oh my, but I would estimate that much. And there are certain things that I could do while I was at school, like during my lunch break, I would share my closet. Things like that. You could squeeze in pockets of time. And rarely am I just like doing one thing. I'm usually like, listing or sharing, but I'm also like listening to a podcast or watching a show or, there's a lot of, I can even have like full-fledged conversations while sharing my closet. Like, so I try to multitask as much as possible, but yeah, I'd say like 10 to 20 hours.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely know that multitasking thing. I'm often like sharing my closet and talking to my partner and just like,
Yes.
I'm listening to you, honey.
Yeah.
I really am. It's
I
good.
promise this is not taking up any of my brain cells. Yeah, for sure.
And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the great things about being a part-time reseller is having that ability to do this kind of work in those pockets of time where
Mhm.
you're like, you know what, I have 10 minutes right now. I'm going to share my closet. I am going to fold some laundry and, just do multitasking. It feels really
Yes.
good. So you started reselling because you're like, cool, I have these things that need a home. What's become your favorite part of reselling?
The one thing that I was not expecting was to find the community, So like I feel like when I first got into reselling, it was just about like how much of my clothes can I sell and how much money can I make, And then like you kind of dive into the okay, well this is like very sustainable. It's very like I'm saving the earth like all by myself. Like, you start feeling all those things too. And like I really do enjoy that part of it. I really enjoy like literally looking at something and being like, this is garbage, and someone else being like, thank you so much, like this made my day. And I'm like, okay. Like that was seconds away from literally going to the landfill. So that's been really cool. But I think again, like the thing that I just never thought would be a thing was the community. First on Instagram, because that's where I started before I got into YouTube and stuff, and then over on YouTube. And it's so interesting too how like a lot of the people that I looked up to or kind of like fangirled over and stuff, have now become friends, and we like check in on each other and talk to each other. And it's like remarkable. Like I feel weird sometimes when I'm talking to like people that I know in actual real life being like, well, an online friend of mine, we're talking about blank, and they're like, okay. But I mean they really do truly feel like friends. And I don't know, the community is really so amazing. So I think right now that's definitely my favorite part of reselling.
I love that. And I agree. I think the community has been one of the most surprising things for
Mhm.
me as well. And it's really become one of the best parts for me also.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
Um, I want to go back to something that you said about saving things from the dumpster. Uh, Something that you've done with your inventory I find really interesting is like you've gotten a lot of inventory that you've probably saved from a landfill somewhere because you've gotten clothing from family and friends.
Yeah.
So how did you go about, asking people for their spare clothes that they weren't
Yeah.
wearing anymore?
I feel like I do have a pretty big circle because a lot of people are like, how do you even like have all these people in your life who are willing to give you this stuff? And I think, I've got a big circle, one with like family and stuff, but also just with like my school. I have a lot of like coworkers, even like students and stuff who know what I do. And then I go to a pretty big church. And so like within the church, there's a lot of people who, have clothes because we all have clothes. And so one of the things about me, I feel like, is I'm very vocal about the things that I'm passionate about. So especially when I first started reselling, and even now, like it's just something that naturally like makes its way into like all conversations, I feel like. And on Facebook, when I first started reselling, it wasn't when I first started reselling, but it was just like, as I got into it more, I think I put something out there about like, hey, like if you guys have clothes that you're just going to take to Goodwill, like I'll take it off your hands, and da 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 da. And that kind of like sparked it. And a lot of people were like, well, what are you going to do with the clothes? And I was like, well, I've been like doing this thing. And people were like, oh, and I have had some people just come through in such major ways with so much stuff. And now I'm kind of getting into where, people have stuff, but they also are like, could I get a piece of that? Like, could I get a cut? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, that's totally fine. And I'll just look through it all really quickly and kind of like guesstimate how much I think I'll make. And we'll kind of agree on, okay, so what do you feel comfortable with as far as like what percentage of my proposed profit, you'd want. And at the end of the day, like they're really okay with whatever, because they were going to take it to Goodwill, or just like throw it out. So I don't know. I think just putting yourself out there, and then like word of mouth too, like people tell other people. So I've had like siblings of students who were like, hey, I heard from my sister that you will take clothes and resell them. Like, can we give you this stuff? Like my mother-in-law, she likes to, thrift and stuff. So when she would go to Goodwill, she'd be like, I just picked up some stuff for you. Or she'd save, stuff from her house that they were going to throw out. Like my brother used to work at a restaurant, and he would tell, the people that he worked with what I did. And like their chef had a son who had all this I mean, it's just, like I would get so much clothes from people that I just like didn't know who they were. But people are always getting rid of clothes, for one reason or another. A lot of it is usually in really great shape. So I'm just very vocal about what I do and the fact that I will take those things off their hands, and it's definitely paid off. So
that's awesome. I feel very invested in your friend Keto, who lost all the weight. And then whenever you sell something from Keto, I'm like, yes, you go.
I know. And I had another friend, I think he also went on the keto diet. Like, I think they kind of did it together and like kept each other accountable. But, and that's a huge thing when people lose a ton of weight or gain a ton of weight for whatever reason, like they just have all this clothes that is sitting around that they can't wear anymore. But she had just given me so much, and it was really cute stuff, so and it wasn't like bigger sizes, so that stuff was just like selling all the time. And yeah, that was fun.
I love that. So you mentioned that community is one of your favorite parts about reselling. What's your least favorite part?
That is a wonderful question. I am not very organized. And so the inventory piece has been stressful, especially as I have added more and more platforms to my plate, to the point that like I have like a mini heart attack when something sells, because I'm like, did this sell somewhere else first? Like I just get so stressed out. And like, so, we talked about Mercari a little bit earlier. Mercari has evolved a little bit, but it used to be that you couldn't like search through your own listings by like brand or anything. You just had to like keep scrolling to get to the oldest stuff. It was horrible. And so I just like would never delete anything off of there, even if it sold somewhere else. Cause I was just like, it's going to take me 100 years to find it. Like, forget it. Like no one's going to try to buy it anyway, cause no one buys anything from me on Mercari. This woman went on my Mercari store, or whatever you want to call it, yesterday. And she was like, I'm interested in these 7 things. Like, what can I buy them from you for? Like, name a price. And like, I only had 3 of them in stock, And I was just like, well, you're going to hate me because you just spent all this time looking through all that stuff. But like, actually, so it's stuff like that. Like, I'm just not very organized, and I don't have a good system for like something sold. So now let's get rid, and I'm getting better, but I would say that piece of it, just like staying organized. I would say that's it. I don't know. How about you? What's your least favorite part?
I go through waves where I really like the organizational stuff until I find that it like creeps up on me and I'm like, I need to like log everything. What is my least favorite part?
It's all just so wonderful.
No, I think there are parts of it that I don't like. I wasn't expecting to be interviewed. I was asking the questions, Becky. I'm like, I don't.
There you go.
No, the things I love like, I also love the community, but I love like finding things, and like like fashion is one of my very favorite things. And so the thrill of the hunt, and like also finding my clothes new homes. Like
Yeah,
that's really exciting to me. I think one of my least favorite parts is like preparing items and making sure they're okay.
that's true.
Like you find a sweater and you're like, this sweater is amazing. And then you look at it for 3 minutes. And you're like, no, it's not.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
or, I think earlier on in my reselling, I wasn't as good as inspecting items as I am now, just because I didn't know everything that I needed to look at. And so things that I bought earlier in my journey, I look at now because it sells and I'm like, oh, okay. we'll
yes,
just we'll grab some scissors and just make sure that that thread is cut. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think like the inspection of items is maybe not my favorite.
Hmm.
And I don't always love like processing items to ship them out. Like,
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, those
I
are
know my
those are
daughter
some.
asked me today because I was shipping, and she's like, "Isn't that so boring?" And I was like, "I mean, I don't really mind it, you know. And if anything, I just feel such a surge of like appreciation that like someone wanted to spend their money with me, and
Yeah.
and but today I sold like this Reformation dress, and it was black, and I'm like, oh my god, there's so much like lint and like,
Right. No, that's
I'm
that's
just like,
that's the part. That's the part. It's
yeah,
like the lint, you know, I have two cats in my house, and so I'm always so paranoid that a
yeah,
cat hair is going to come out of somewhere and just like land on the black dress
yeah,
once you've done everything, It's like those things. Like I love that the item is going somewhere, but yeah, it's just like making sure that it's perfect before
yeah.
it leaves.
Yeah. And I think I get scared too, like, and I mean, no matter what, like, it's going to happen. You're going to send something out. There's going to be something wrong with it, every once in a while, you'll miss a flaw. I get really scared that, like, that'll happen and someone will, like, blast me on social media or something,
Yeah.
So I'm, like, extra paranoid, I feel like, about a lot of different things. Even, like, I was in a live video not too long ago and someone was talking about like lowballing, and I was like, I don't feel like I can do that because I feel like they'd be like,
Mm,
Becky Park just tried to lowball me, and if it's like the wrong person, then it's out there in a really negative way, like you're not
yeah.
in control of that narrative, and it's just she tried to sell me this stuff and it was so I think there's that added stress too of just like I don't want my name attached to something that I'm not proud of, or like,
Yeah.
and obviously, like, hopefully people would understand if that were to happen, not even if, when that happens, because it's going to happen, like, we're going to miss things, that I'm not like out to get anyone, or I'm not like doing it purposefully. I'm not just like trying to be negligent or whatever, but people make mistakes. And I feel like so far everyone has been super gracious because obviously like issues have come up and, but, I think I just get in my head about like
Hmm.
things like that and I stress myself out. So that's kind of become this growing concern and stress in my life that I also was not anticipating, but it's there. So
Yeah. And you're right. Like, I don't think any of that would ever come from a malicious place, but we're human and
yeah,
we make mistakes. And also on the lowballing piece, like, there are low balls. Like, if something's listed for $100 and someone sends an offer for like $15, like,
mhm,
yes, that's a low ball. But I also think that people's individual definitions of a low ball really vary from person to person.
yeah, for sure.
And how they react to an offer is different from person to person. Like if someone sends me a lowball offer, I'm just like, cool. Either I counter it or I accept it, and I just sort of move on. Like,
Yeah.
how do you respond when someone lowballs you?
Yeah, I don't take it personally. I've always been so confused by the people who like, take a screenshot, put it on Instagram, like, can you believe? And I'm like, kind of like I feel like I would have done the same thing. Like what's the problem here? I don't understand what we're all upset about. Um, yeah, for me, I just see it as an opportunity to make a sale. And
Yeah.
if there have been so many incidences where incidents, yeah, where I have received a lowball offer and I have countered, and we'll kind of go back and forth maybe, or they'll accept my counter, even though it's like a pretty big leap from where they started. But a lot
Hmm.
of people are just trying to test the waters, like they're not out
Totally.
to insult you, but they just want a good deal. And I totally understand that mindset, so
Yeah.
No, I don't take it personally. I never decline. Like I never ever decline. I just try to work with that person and see if we can get to a place where we're both comfortable. Some people are not like super serious, or they are kind of being ridiculous. But in that case, like I'll counter and they'll decline, and that's the end of it. And I'm fine, you know? So.
Yeah. One of my favorite ways that those end is you go back and forth, you land on a price, you accept, payment issue.
Yeah, that's always that's definitely one of my least favorite things about reselling is payment issues on Poshmark, or when people buy something on eBay and then they don't pay. And I'm like, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So aside from worrying that people might blast you on social media for making some sort of human error,
Yes.
how has, Instagram and YouTube and the other ways that you show up on social media impacted your reselling business?
I do think it has a positive effect, and I definitely do get some sales every week, it seems like, and more so from other people on like social media and like other resellers. So I do think that there is a percentage of my sales that I wouldn't get if I were not active on social media. So that's been interesting, like it's been humbling and interesting that people would be invested enough in you to again like give you their hard-earned money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very interesting to say the least. I don't feel like that's how I naturally respond to someone who I look up to. Like I'm not like, here's my money, like thank you, like so it's just been like interesting for me to witness that, and I'm super grateful. I think also it's been eye-opening in the sense of like people people seem to feel like I have to hear their every opinion on different things. And
Mm,
sometimes I'm like, I respect what you're saying, but I think it's okay that what we're doing is different. Like I don't think you need to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. So that's been interesting, and not something that I think would come up if I were not active on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. And that doesn't happen very often, but with the people that it happens with, they're very like adamant about the fact that like you should do things this way. And I'm like, I'm fine. Like let's
yeah.
let's agree to disagree.
I
Yeah,
think sometimes people just need an outlet and they find it in you for whatever reason that is.
yeah. So I don't know. But overall it's been good. Like I feel like the impact that social media and stuff has had on my life has been good. To some degree, like probably the worst thing about it is just that like I'm on my phone a lot more, and I feel like indebted to people to like respond to their DMs or to this and that. And like my husband has to remind me sometimes, like the people that really matter are in the room with you right now. Like put your phone down. And I'm like, that's true. So
Yeah.
I think it's that kind of stuff. But trying to get better about that too.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out with reselling?
I think it depends on why they're getting into reselling. If they're getting into it as like a hobby and it's just something that they're going to do to make some side income, I would say like just have fun with it, like don't take everything so seriously at first. Like just, I don't know, have fun and be okay with trying out different things, trying out different brands, different strategies of sourcing. Don't kind of like get so stuck in one way too quickly. If it's someone who's looking to like, this is how I'm going to make money to live and survive, I feel like I'd be like, okay, like let's sit down, talk about, because it's different. And I think sometimes when people try to come at me about different things, I think they forget like, listen, like this is to pay for a new deck outside. Like this is not putting food
Yeah.
on the table. This is not paying for my bills. Like this is like extra play money for me. And I'm so grateful that I have that opportunity. But for someone who is doing it to, make a living, I think I would tell them to start small in the sense of like, don't buy pallets, don't like, like don't go crazy at first, like just learn what's going to work for you and learn like what kind of stuff sells well for you, learn what kind of stuff like you like to sell, because then you will get it listed and you're not going to let it sit there and collect dust. um, Definitely get some systems in place right away as far as like inventory, as far as like keeping track of accounting things. Just be organized and have a system for everything from the get-go so that you can grow and you're not like always playing catch up with yourself, you know. But if you're just doing it for fun, like have fun. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it's definitely fun. And I think just taking that approach, especially if you're just doing it as a part-time thing, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on the internet?
So I am most active on Instagram and YouTube. Instagram, I am at Becky Park on Poshmark, and I have the same handle for YouTube as well. It's at Becky Park on Poshmark. And on YouTube, I try to put out like 2 to 3 videos a week. It just depends on what's going on in my life. And on Instagram, I feel like I at least have something like in my stories every day. It's usually about my kids. Like a lot of times it's not reseller related at all. And then my Poshmark closet is just Becky Park. So pretty easy to find me there. And I think eBay, Mercari, it's all just Becky Park. So
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to link those in the description below. Becky Park, this has made my life better. Like,
oh my gosh.
I want to say thank you for doing this interview, and just the way that you share your journey on YouTube is inspiring and has taught me a lot about reselling in general. And I know that I'm not the only one, especially since you recently reached 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you for all the amazing information that you put out there and the candor with which you share. There's so many of us learning a lot from you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I have to tell you, and that's why I was one of the first people to leave a comment underneath the troll. Like, I really enjoy your YouTube channel too. Like, I think you're really easy and like, just, what's the word? Not easy. Good, not good. Like, you're just very comfortable in front of the camera, and it's just like, it's easy to watch you. I think that's what I was trying to say. But I feel like, you talked about how you really enjoy fashion, and that comes through too, and like the type of stuff you're picking up. And I don't know, you're killing it for a newbie, so yeah.
Stop. I can't. Too many feelings. I get to end the interview here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. It's all happening. Also, I went to school for musical theater. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay, why are you telling me this now?
Your videos resonated with me so much. I was like, we have so many things in common, and she has no idea.
But now I do.
Now you do.
Now we're going to duet or something. Yeah. Fun.
Duet. Okay, this is actually going to be the intro. It's just going to be bloopers.
Good. People will be like, and done.